Thank you, Chair. Now, Chancellor, in the run-up to the general election, you said that you had no plans for tax rises beyond what was in your manifesto, and that you would focus on growth, and that growth was really the way in which you were going to get more tax revenues coming in. You've now put together two of the biggest tax-raising budgets in UK history. And the Office for Budget Responsibility has told us that there's not a single measure overall that has a positive growth impact. They think, in fact, that tax hikes are harming growth. So can you tell us what your growth plan is? It's not one of the priorities of this budget. Are you still chairing the Growth Mission Board?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. First of all, and you know we've been through this a number of times. There was new information after the general election. First of all, the £22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the previous government,
which has been discredited by the Office for Budget Responsibility.
Not at all. The £22 billion black hole left by the previous government, which was set out to me by Treasury officials the weekend that I became Chancellor of the Exchequer, which we had to fill, and then the £16 billion downgrade to productivity, the impact that had on fiscal revenues. And as the Office of Budget Responsibility were very clear, that reflects the weak productivity in the previous Parliament. The OBR made the decision to do that revision this summer, but they were very clear it doesn't reflect any policies of this government. So those are the two key things that have changed since the general election. And of course, I did go into the general election with the targeted tax increases on non-DOMs, on private equity, on private schools, on the energy profits levy that we were elected to deliver. We have delivered those. We have had to do additional tax raising because of the mess left by the previous government. But you've also asked about growth. Well, shall I finish answering your question, Dame Harriet?
Yeah.
You've asked about economic growth. You will know that in the spring, the OBR upgraded their growth forecasts. It was the biggest upgrade to growth from a non-fiscal measure that the OBR in their 15-year history now has ever made, and that reflected the changes that we made to planning. And they also upgraded the growth forecast because of the capital investment that this government is prioritising. Of course, under the previous government's plans, capital investment was due to fall in this Parliament. I protected capital investment and have continued to do so, even in this challenging budget with the productivity downgrade. So the OBR have been very clear that both the planning reforms, voted against, I believe, by the Conservative Party, and also the capital expenditure, which the Conservatives were going to cut, has resulted in an upgrade of productivity. And indeed, if you look at, during budget week, made further progress on a third runway at Heathrow. We signed off the film studio in Marlow that had been opposed by Buckinghamshire Council and that we called in. And since the budget, JP Morgan have announced a huge investment in Canary Wharf. Goldman Sachs have announced that they're doubling their headcount of jobs in Birmingham, and in addition, the Co-op have announced that they are freezing or cutting 2,700 prices in store. These are all pro-growth measures, but probably the most pro-growth of all is the 5 interest rate cuts that we've had from the Bank of England since the general election. That's only possible because of the stability that we've provided after the chaos we had in previous years.
So you chose not to put any new growth measures in this budget.
Well, that's exactly. No, that's not what I said. Dame Harriet.
Dame Harriet. Perhaps Ms Dame Harriet, if you ask a question, then the Chancellor can answer.
But don't contradict what I just said. Yes, we have regular meetings of the Growth Mission Board, but I did not say in the answer to my question, as you suggested, that there were no growth measures in this budget. Far from it. In the week of the budget, we made further progress on the runway at Heathrow. We signed off the film studio in Marlow. Jamie Dimon, the chief executive of JP Morgan, who could invest in any country in the world, chose the day after the budget, referencing the actions that I had taken in the budget, that as a result of that, he would be making the investment in Canary Wharf. Similarly, Goldman Sachs company that could invest in any country in the world, announced the following day, because of the measures in my budget, that he was investing in Britain.
Thank you. Dame Harriet, questions?
Do you accept, Chancellor, that your revealed preference now in terms of the two budgets you've brought in is that you hike taxes a lot, and that the speculation and the impact of the speculation in the run-up to this budget had a real-world impact in terms of people's decisions, in terms of mortgages, in terms of people making decisions on their pensions, in terms of a range of different things that changed behaviour within businesses? A lot of businesses said they put decisions on hold, and that this impression that you're ready to go for tax rises is going to hang over this country's economy for the rest of this Parliament.
Of course, the previous government took taxes to a record high and saw interest rates go through the roof. And since the general, I'm not surprised you don't want to hear about the previous government, nor the voters.
Budget measures. Can I just have
there we are. There's a rare moment of agreement. No one wants to hear about the previous government.
Questions and answers would be good, please.
Yes, which is what I'm trying to do, Dame Meg. We have returned stability to the economy, which has enabled the Bank of England to cut interest rates 5 times, and as you would have seen since the budget, a number of mortgage lenders have cut interest rates on mortgages. I think interest rates now on mortgages are lower than they were since the Prime Minister, maybe one who you might not want to remember as well, Liz Truss, took interest rates through the roof. I very much welcome that. Again, those reductions in interest rates would not have been possible without the stability that I've returned to the economy.
We're going to get into measures in a moment, Dame Meg, but last year I asked you, Chancellor, about the way in which you're implementing all the Article 4 recommendations from the IMF in terms of you're basically going through the whole list of recommendations and ticking them off one by one. Last year I asked you if you were planning any overhaul of council tax. You said, no, we're not looking at that. I asked you if you were looking at road pricing. You said, no, we're not looking at road pricing. I would argue that you've started the process on both of those in this budget. There are a couple more measures that I think the public out there would be very interested in hearing if you can rule those out. Capital gains on primary residences. Are you planning to do that in this Parliament? And are you planning to change the state pension to a single lock in this Parliament? Can you rule those out, please?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chancellor.
Chancellor, in your budget, you say that the High Street will benefit from permanently lower business rates for retail, hospitality and leisure. And I think you will have heard that the reality for a lot of these High Street businesses is, in fact, that they're looking at the detail and they feel that they will struggle to survive with the higher rates bills that are coming, on top of the rising employment costs, on top of their rising energy bills. To give a few examples, and we'll all have heard them in our constituency postbags, pubs are facing a 15% rise. There's music venues in Newcastle, 431% rise. The British Beer and Pub Association says community pubs up 63%. So would you accept, Chancellor, that a lot of these businesses feel misled by that statement?
So let me set out what is happening with business rates, because there's a couple of things happening at the same time. The last time that the Valuation Office looked at rateable values of property was in 2021, and of course that was in the middle of the pandemic, and so many rateable values fell sharply during the pandemic. They've now been revalued, and of course those rateable values are now higher because we are no longer during a lockdown in a pandemic. At the same time, during the pandemic, there was temporary support given to a number of businesses to support them with business rates. The previous government put in temporary support that finished in the last year of that government. They didn't allocate any money for future. In my first budget, I put in additional support for the first year, and in this budget we've put another £4.3 billion of additional support in as we transition to more normal valuations and rates. But what we've also done in this budget is to permanently lower the business rates, the tax rates that are applied to properties for eligible retail, hospitality hospitality and leisure businesses, and that is paid for by a higher rate on the top 1% of properties, particularly distribution centres that are used by online companies. So there will be permanently lower rates for those sectors. But as we transition, we've put in £4.3 billion of support for the types of businesses that you refer to. And so I think the average pub will be getting a 4% increase in rates this year, and the rates are capped at 15% or £800 for smaller venues this year, and that support continues at a phased down rate for the next couple of years. But we're moving to a system where we have permanently lower rates on those venues.
Can I just urge you to look at this again, Chancellor, because UK Hospitality would dispute that. They think a 15% hike on average for pubs. So I'll just leave that out there.
Thank you very much.
15% is the cap. So that's the highest it can be.
They're saying the average pub will get that cap.
No.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. No, the average is 4%, and there's a cap of 15%.